Because I played against the Teklo.
Yep. Ooh.
The Teklo player.
In which, yeah.
I've immediately forgotten their name, so I'm really sorry about that. Especially because, obviously,
all this going to cut.
We're going to plug this to them to then listen to.
Oh, I see.
That's why we're going tonight as advertisement.
Right. I see.
We should get cards. Anyway, playing against him, I was on Katsu. He was on Teklo. Mm-hmm. Would you like to guess the final life totals?
I'm going to go 40-0.
That's well done, John. Would you like to guess how many turns it took?
3.
Wow.
3 turns.
It took 3 turns. Very nice. And then the young person who was doing the Pokemon Learn to Play.
Yep.
Who's played at DICE before. Do you remember the High Seas pre-release? They were dressed as a pirate, which was sick, by the way.
I only know 2 of them.
They were very nice, very lovely.
Yep.
And I said I would come over to the Meeple.
Yep.
To play VGC at some point.
Oh.
And yeah, and I was like, oh, but also I want to come play Fab. I want us to, to start venturing out again as CBAS to go play at locals and stuff to make Kent Fab a thing.
Yes, yeah, and they're doing very well with a small crowd. You see the same. They post their results in the Discord. I'm on the Discord.
Mm-hmm. I'm now also on the Discord.
Oh, good. It's a very good Discord actually for a store.
Welcome to Energy Potion, a Flesh and Blood podcast where we chat about trying, failing, and sometimes succeeding to play Flesh and Blood as competitively as we can. We are now available beyond our YouTube channel and can be found on all good podcast apps. In fact, that's how you can tell it's a good one. Please don't smash the like and subscribe or follow buttons just yet. We are still learning and don't need that kind of pressure from the algorithm. You can comment whenever you want though, because we can't resist talking about our favourite TCG. This episode was recorded in the Cracked Bauble Appreciation Society headquarters in OG Canterbury. We did end up taking a swing at the Mug and Meeple Armoury, but it turned out to be a little reckless.
The issue with having a store Discord is that someone has to run it.
Yeah, I know. And we've tried getting off of chat and onto Discord, and with mixed results.
I mean, I'm still really tempted to just explode that, but
I don't actually know what that means.
As in, I will delete the CBAS chat.
Oh, really? That's almost a reasonable option. Almost a reasonable option because it's now so big.
Exactly.
It's now so big.
And there are like at least 4 splinter chats. Like the couples have a chat. I know I believe it's the Spectrum Nexus.
The what?
It was a chat that was made. I think it was like me, Pip, Char. It was for an event.
Oh right, and then it's kicked off.
And then gradually we just added like a few other people. To be fair, you should probably be in it.
I don't get invited to stuff, Toby. I'm well aware.
Well, you should be.
It's a thing. I have 2 problems in life.
The couples chat is obviously always going because they talk about it, but the Nexus doesn't really go off because all the chat that would happen in the thing.
Yeah.
And obviously that would be rectified if we just had the Discord because then people were just talking there in respective chat and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know. And actually, when the Discord was sort of on the way up, it was going really well.
Yeah, it was. And honestly, with a Discord, it is a lot easier to get people who aren't locals in.
Yeah.
Because I get to go, here's a Discord invite.
Yep.
Come on in.
Yep.
And it's a lot less intimidating to post in a Discord channel.
And
there's
more subject specific. And a chat with 40 people where we post mainly about Nutella and Magic the Gathering. Yeah.
And Pokemon. Sometimes
Pokemon. Occasionally, somebody has to ask Charlie what a card is.
And then he eats it.
Don't ask Charlie about illusionist cards, everyone.
That's don't pick up Charlie Wallace's habits. He eats cards and he drinks from puddles.
I don't know about the last one. Okay. So we had a huge competitive weekend of Flesh and Blood. A huge competitive weekend of Flesh and Blood that I could not attend.
which is a crying shame. You did have prior engagements.
I'm absolutely gutted. First of all, the least of the events, did anything good happen at Calling Auckland?
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten there was something going on.
Yeah, exactly. In the wider world,
some smaller event.
some small
I think,
event.
Yeah, I think some Fab was played. I think there was some relatively big names there, give or take. I saw that, and this is in the sealed. I'd like to preface.
Yep.
In the sealed.
In the
calling,
sealed calling, 2 callings.
Katsu won.
Katsu won the sealed calling.
No, he didn't. I'm lying.
Oh, what?
Dory won. The one of Dory in the top 8 draft won the top 8 for that.
Fine.
3 Katsus in that pod. 1 Dory, 1 Reiner, 2 Bravos. I'm not saying Welcome to Wraith is the best set, except I am.
Fair.
Peak drafting experience.
I can't argue with you. I didn't exist then.
Well, you did, John.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about those dark times.
So that was good. That was interesting to watch. Jacob Clements, obviously UK player, got to the finals. Very
well done,
played,
Jacob.
Probably be seeing him in this upcoming maybe skirmish with some LLs, but probably might see him around on the Proquest season.
Yeah, we need to talk about Proquest season.
We'll get to that. That's at least 20 minutes, John.
Yeah.
Might see him playing at Battleharden Copenhagen coming up soon as well.
Yep, of course.
Which we have a local going.
Isn't it Calling? Well. It's Calling. Calling Copenhagen.
It's in Denmark.
It's Calling. It's
That's
Calling.
all I know.
It's a Calling.
It's a Calling, and it's really soon. And Lucian, the player who we're sending,
Lucian
might even decide on the deck before that. If we're lucky. I think he's set on Ira. He's liking Ira. I beat him last night playing KO versus Ira, and I shouldn't have.
Okay.
So I think Ira's a good shout.
I think. Good luck, Lucian, with Ira.
Although the other calling at Auckland,
yep,
didn't have any Iras in the top 8.
No, it didn't. It had some very cool decks in the top 8.
It did, however, have many other decks. Yeah, many other cool decks in the top 8, including but not limited to 2 Wizards.
I know.
Neither of them Verdants.
I know. I'm really pleased about that.
2 Slippies, 1 Gravy. That's your meta.
Yep.
That's your meta game.
Yep.
Slice and
yep.
pie. A Dash IO. I don't have to preface IO anymore. It's Dash. There's 1 Dash. One
that
dash.
Makes me sad, Toby. So can we please call her Dash IO?
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
1 Dio.
1 Dio, who apparently, I've not finished catching up, made some absolutely amazing calls on Null Time Zone.
I mean, if you can read souls, that's a card to play.
Yep.
If you can peer into the abyss of your opponent's mind and see what's in their arsenal, or in their hand, I suppose.
In their hand, yeah, yeah. I think there was one where they called a card and it was the card in their arsenal. But
so it's a turn off, turn delayed.
Yeah, turn delayed, turn delayed.
And it does imply there were 2 more heroes, John, that I've forgotten.
That's right, because I've already looked at the Kano list, and the Kano list is really interesting.
What were the other 2 decks?
While you're looking at that, I have actually bought a card off the back of seeing that Kano list because I don't have any. I didn't have any of the new amulets. The new amulets I've sort of held off from because they all look fun, but I'm not sure what's good. But there's one that is basically an E-pot. So Kano's are playing,
one, right?
Yeah, the ruby one.
Ruby.
Kano's playing 3 E-pots and an amulet that is an E-pot.
Yes.
So 4 E-pots.
Honestly, all those amulets are just like they're just essentially buffs for Kano.
Yeah, exactly. Just choose your buff for Kano.
Prism was in the top 8, and Fang was at the top 8.
Fang is a bit scary, isn't it?
Fang is very scary.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Fang is pretty good.
I think, very recently was the first time ever playing against Fang. They didn't get online in like 2 turns. And it was still a very close one, I'd like to point out. But no, Auckland, very good.
Yep.
Very
Auckland,
good to
very
watch.
Very good. Good to watch. Lots to learn. I bought a card because of it.
That means it works.
And we'll talk about why when when we get to that bit of the show.
To the wizard portion of the show.
Well, to the PQ portion of the show, I think, which might become the wizard portion of the show. But it wasn't anywhere near the top 3 events of the weekend.
No, obviously not. Like, well, one, it was on the other side of the world, and was actually quite hard to watch live. Which,
well, if you have a premium streaming team, that doesn't happen.
Well, more I was asleep when it was streaming, John. But
oh, right, fine.
Whereas I was wide awake, glued to my screen, watching the Cup of TCG coverage of this weekend.
But you were also on.
Watching the coverage of Canterbury Gaming Convention's very own Flesh and Blood events this weekend, which I signed up to judge and help run smoothly and swimmingly in the shadows of the background. And then on the day was told, actually, you know what, Toby, we've got this covered. You can probably play if you want.
Oh.
And so I did.
So you did, just with whatever goblin chaff you had in the bag. Literally whatever chaff was in the bag.
Callum came up to me and said, "Oh, I kind of want to play in the armory. Do you have any decks I can borrow?" And I've got 5 and I've got Gravy, but it's got like the Tricorn. It hasn't even got like Crown of Providence in it. And he was like, "I'll just do the coverage."
Fine.
And then 20 minutes later, he was like, "Are you going to play then?" And I was like, "Well, probably not. I'll judge it." And Charlie was like, "I'm judging it." I'm like, "Well
done, Charlie.
I'll just do the booth." And then there was like no one at the booth. And I'm like, "You know what? Fine, I'll play it."
Yeah, okay.
With
your Trihorn in Gravy.
Yeah.
Yeah, sad times. So how was round 1 for you?
Round 1 had... I believe it was Sam borrowing Callum's Levia deck, which is why Callum was looking to borrow.
Sounds good with Levia, yep.
Sam's well practiced on Levia. Playing Sea Legs was a recent upgrade.
Yep.
Probably the weakest of the brutes to use Sea Legs, because obviously while she has the draw discard, she also has the banish stuff too. Sea Legs can turn up at the wrong time, a lot more than it turns up at the right time. That being said, go again on call in a brute. Always pretty good if you can get it lined up. And also, with a bit of luck, you'll get that discard when you need it. Probably, I think a relatively balanced matchup. I think Levia is one of the heroes that, on average, has access to pretty decent action point generation. Like, she can go again. Like, she can do the wild ride. She does all this. She can go big and wide, sometimes at the same time. And obviously, like, if she's turning the corner and you're at that kind of like in the danger zone life total, and she decides this is the turn that I'm popping off with a blood rush. Gravy's not renowned for his blocking prowess. So
I've played. It's been a while since I played Sam, but it's been a lot longer than that since I saw him die to blood debt.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, again, it does sometimes just catch you, but in this game, it didn't. I got him,
and it's Callum's Levia deck. So we know it's only going to be a good Levia deck.
Yeah, it's not too free, too spicy. And it was pretty solid. It was a close one. I mean, all of my games on the night were a close one. I played quite aggressively, as I think Gravy decks have sort of moved to now. And I think you have to, really, because it becomes more of a presenting pressure, presenting disruption.
Aggro decks are good. Aggro decks are good.
Aggro decks are good, and Gravy is, I think... Well, Gravy's closer to Dramai than he is to Enigma, for example, in terms of board place decks. Anyway, through my aggression, I very tactfully and skillfully put him to 14 in a matter of turns. Now, obviously, 14, as we all know, is very different to 13.
Yep.
And so I then had to deal with 4 turns of Levia consumed following that.
Right.
1 more point of damage, I would have felt a lot more comfortable. So yeah, he turns the corner. It becomes a very different game. I was very much pushing. We were trading quite nicely. I felt quite in the driver's seat. Then I'm coming back with these 4 to 5 card hands, with obviously Dread Screamers and the other one I've forgotten. I should really know that as the brute player. But no, lots of go again into claws, into more go again. But again, Gravy does have the benefit of making every matchup a 3v1 And so through the overwhelming power of me, Limpet, and Rigor Mortis,
Yep.
we did manage to overcome the wall that was Levia. Probably one of the more favoured matchups of the day for me.
Yeah.
Favoured being, again, like I said, if he draws the right side of his deck, I probably lose.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying I didn't make any mistakes, but Gravy is a deck that it does feel like you can play not perfectly and still do quite well.
Yeah, I'm hearing it being bandied about as the highest skill ceiling deck at the moment, which means that there's got to be room at the top for making some small mistakes. Certainly at still a local level, right? If it's the highest skill ceiling deck, then it's still got to do well with a few mistakes.
Yeah, I think I'd posit that it's got quite a relatively high skill floor. I mean, that being said, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, John, and I can play it. So maybe it can't be that high.
I don't know. You played Brute for many years.
That is actually a very cerebral deck.
Yeah.
You're quite correct. But yes, I agree that there's a reason that the best players in the world are playing it is because the skill
high skill ceiling, which rewards low
very
mistake play, but it means that there's got to be space for the occasional mistake.
The occasional unforced error, perhaps. Yeah. But no, thankfully, got the right side of the luck in that matchup, and then proceeded to then play on stream for round 2.
Yep.
Against my good friend Jess on her arguably favourite deck outside of perhaps Club Levia in Hatchet Story, a deck that both of us have been working on and think is well positioned in the metagame, dominated by Syndra and Gravy Bones.
I can see hatchets into Gravy Bones,
Mm-hmm.
although now this is a bit of the Cuppers coverage that I was able to catch up on so far. They were saying that actually it's Dawnblade Dory that's more favoured into the old.
Well, Dawnblade Dory
Necromancer Pirate
is favoured into Gravy because one, he probably can't block Dawnblade himself regardless, and two, if you give her something to swing at, she'll take down the ally and then threaten the Dawnblade counter. And she won't need the attack reactions to get through on the allies, so she gets to keep them for you too.
But hatchets, I can still see it because
hatchets attacks from a different angle, right? So Dory with her Dawnblade is very much looking to kill Gravy, to put him in the ground fast and quick before he really gets the space to set up anything he wants to do. Because something like Sawbones, for example, or Chum is very useful in that matchup. Hatchets are quite content to take their time and threaten life total, obviously, as you should, but also it's a deck that is very capable of literally killing every ally in that deck.
Yeah.
And I think there's a point in the game where that becomes the game plan if you think you're not going to be able to push the life total. Now, obviously, the key difference between Hatchets and Dawnblade is that Hatchets gets access to Cleave.
Ooh.
Cleave, a card that I guess initially was to keep Dramai in check and Dramai's allies in check. But against Gravy is obviously fantastic as a way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, kill 2 allies with 1 swing, and also take out some of the more annoying 1 toughness, 1 health allies that you wouldn't usually want to dedicate a full swing to, and sort of catch them in a sweep, if you will, or in a sweeping motion. Like you can swing the 6 into Chum, take out Rigor Mortis as well, and then present the second one at face. And then obviously, if you have that one go, give that one go again as well. Dory still kicks in, swing the third hatchet at face again. So again, it's a lot of pressure. And also a deck that blocks well too. A deck that doesn't need to necessarily have a full 4-card grip to present a good hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, an awful matchup. I think luckily.
And one that Jess is very well practiced with.
And Jess has been playing that deck for a very long time.
Certainly, if not the matchup, the deck.
Exactly. So I think I got, again, as you have to win any tournament, I think I got quite lucky in that I think she wasn't able to track down 2 of her 3 cleaves, so they weren't in the list, which I did afterwards, obviously.
Yep.
And the 1 cleave she was playing, I managed to threaten with a Conqueror of the High Seas quite early on, and she Crown of Providence it to the bottom. So by the time we got back there, she wasn't able to keep the hands to present it.
So a good long grindy game then.
Well, anyone who might have watched the footage will see that we did utilise the full width of the round time.
I haven't finished yet because I was listening to it whilst exercising this morning, and I don't have that much stamina personally.
Yeah, it really will test the stamina of one's mind. But obviously, in the moment, it was very close. It was very tight. Obviously, we have a good time. We have fun playing. There were a few turns where...
And in the commentary, you were even accused of playing quickly as well, both of you.
Well,
so
we played fast at the beginning because we knew we'd go to time.
Yep. Yeah.
And there's actually a quip in the later game when I'm streaming where they're like, well, it'll probably take a while because Toby's playing Gravy. It's like, actually, I play Gravy at speed. I play Gravy very fast. Thank you very much.
Difficult deck.
Difficult deck to play fast without mistakes.
Yep.
Again, a deck that requires a great many deal of reps that I personally probably don't have.
Getting there.
Well, unfortunately, to get reps, I don't have to play the deck.
Yeah.
And there wasn't an armory every night. I wish there were.
I don't know. You're as a side note, you're about to rack up hopefully 4 solid days of fab.
When you put it like that, John, I suddenly become incredibly tired.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that the turnout for last night's on-demand fab and locals was a bit smaller than usual. I understand a lot of players are probably quite fabbed out.
4 events in 3 days
after a weekend of
so
fab.
round 2, Jess.
Round 2, Jess. I won't spoil the result for you, as you're going to watch the rest of it later, I'm sure. But it was a real nail biter final, and again,
I don't know. I stopped listening to the game, and actually, just the commentary was very entertaining.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I usually just listen to commentary. I very rarely actually watch the game itself. We usually have on the second monitor or on the earphones or something when I'm working. Which is why, as an aside, commentators, please mention every card being played. please assume that people aren't necessarily watching the stream.
Yeah,
and they're just listening, because that makes it a lot easier for me to do just that.
Yeah, and you need to tell the colour as well, even if Toby's watching.
Especially if Toby's watching.
Yeah.
And also, for what it's worth, they obviously did fantastic with the coverage. The commentary was fantastic. The audio quality was fantastic. The video quality was the best that they could do with the situation they were given.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of the way the hall was set up and the nature of the space they were given, they did not have much control over the lighting.
No, fine.
And so at some points, some of the cards were quite hard to see.
It's really hard. We've tried. We've tried. The lighting the cards is hugely painful.
You need like a small a cave of sorts where you can control light on every level. So again, that would also help. So when you're announcing what cards
if you're listening, $5,000 would go a long way to helping us get a cave. Thank you.
It would. I could rent a cave. That'd be lovely.
And we'd share it between at least 2 teams of
That's true. That's very
content
true.
creators.
You think we'd get
maybe even
each,
3?
Or maybe we can get 5.
Maybe even 3 different teams of content creators would use this kit.
It would be nice. It would be nice. But no, so that second game ends. It's very exciting. So I'll let you enjoy that in your own time.
Okay.
Because then game 3 comes along. I'm banished back down to the depths of the regular tables with the regular peons. And no stream for that, because instead the game streamed is FANG versus something else.
Who was on FANG?
Cameron was on FANG.
Okay.
And I want to say Callum on Bolton was the opponent.
I thought Callum was streaming this game. This
I think
tournament.
Callum got convinced to play Bolton.
Oh, right, fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I will catch up. I will see.
Yeah. Well, you can tell me how it went, because I haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
Evidently, because I can't remember who was playing.
I'm
also struggling to remember who I played, John.
Can't help you there.
What people do we know from CBAS?
It was quite a big event.
Do we know?
20 people.
There were 20 people.
We're going to list 20 people.
Yeah.
Was Noah playing?
No.
Finley playing?
No.
Charlie was judging.
No.
Pippa?
No. She wasn't there.
Christian was playing Pokemon.
Christian technically was playing, but not. But no, it wasn't Christian.
Ross?
No.
Lucian?
No, I don't think so.
Aiden 2?
No.
Aiden 3?
No.
Testing our knowledge of CBAS
This
now
is
without
tough,
getting our
isn't it?
phones out.
This is why I'm
Without getting our
struggling.
phones out.
Who do I play? I have my phone. I can just check.
You can just check.
This is also fun in its own way, but keep going, John. We might get there before we get there.
I know Kyle, Aiden 1 and Ryan were casting because I saw them.
Exactly.
Dave. If Cameron was there, Dave was probably there.
I have misremembered the order of games, that's why. Round 1,
Yep.
I had Josh on Puffin.
Oh!
I had
Okay.
Josh on Puffin round 1.
Josh on Puffin round
he
1.
blew up all my bloody equipment with Palantirs. That's why I'd removed it from my memory, because it was a traumatic experience.
Traumatic experience removed from memory. Then round 2, Levia. Round 3.
No, round 2 was Jess on stream.
Round 2 was Jess on stream.
Round 3 was Sam.
Round 3 was Sam.
The other way round.
Okay.
No, the game. We'll okay, we fix it in post. I mean, we won't.
We won't.
We'll quickly rewind in time. We'll
Yep.
do a flashback.
So all your equipment got blown up.
The game
was
against Josh
horrible.
was very, very good. I did
Okay.
enjoy it very much.
Okay.
So sorry, Josh, because you're going to get here now after having complained, been like, "Well, I played him round 1," but we're here now. We're acknowledging that I played you round 1, and it was a really good game, and it was fantastic. And as we all know, Josh's Puffin deck is beautiful, like all like
Yep.
gold for all like
Yeah,
beauty,
he's gone to town on it.
lovely arts of it, all the gold full cogs as well. Very hard to stick an ally against Puffin because she has that pesky gun that only requires 2 cogs to fire, and she's quite happy to throw it at an ally. So I'm having to throw as much as I can at him, throw disruption, and then obviously like just essentially eat anything he throws at gravy because I can't afford to give him cards in this race.
Yep.
And if he can finagle the cogs in a way that make them disruptive, so be it. I'm ruined.
Yep.
So that was very good, very close, and I get to a point where I do start to stabilise and get to start pushing pushing for lethal and taking cards out of hand that he probably wants to keep to get rid of allies.
Yep.
Chum and Sawbones, as ever, prove that they are.
They're basically the only 2 that I know from the allies because they're horrendous.
I mean,
as in, you play them all the time against me.
I have a main board of gravy, I think, of like 48 to 51-ish cards.
Yep.
And the 9 allies that are always in are Sawbones, Chum, and Rigor Mortis.
Yeah.
Everyone else is on the backup team.
Yep.
Everyone's on the bench. They come in as and when they're needed. Those 9, those 3 times 3 are the real frontliners. But no, game against Josh, really, really good. Fast forward to the end of round 3, where I just finished beating Sam.
Yep. We talked about that already. We don't want to revisit that. I know you won.
We won that one back. We get to the finals. I'm back on stream again, playing against Cameron on FANG. So
there we
well
go.
done,
The finals.
Yep.
So round 4 finals, Super Armoury. Thus far, undefeated. I'm assuming.
Yep. 2 3-0s, me and Cameron.
You and Cameron. Well done, Cameron.
Well done, Cameron. A player
Well done,
who
Cameron.
is still, I was seeing as still a relatively new player in comparison to the grand scheme of things. Floated around on a few decks, played a bit of Jarl,
Yep.
played a bit of some various other Guardians as well. I think you might have played Bravo for a little bit.
I may have missed that
which is
phase, but I know the
incredibly
Jarl
super.
phase because that was horrendous.
And is now on FANG, is now having a good time with FANG.
Yep, good. Well, apparently so.
And playing very well with FANG. And is a bad matchup for Gravy, as it seems a lot of Warriors are.
Yep.
It sounds like if you can swing your weapons to good effect, allied decks aren't as good.
No.
Which is funny when you consider that Illusionist and the stuff loves playing against Warriors. So it's funny how they have, in theory, fixed allied decks to a degree.
Okay.
Anyway, FANG.
A
deck that can get online very quickly.
Yep.
Can pressure face
Yep.
very emphatically. And has the ability to essentially sculpt the size of the attacks of his daggers as he wants.
Does Fang fear the ripple away?
I think Ripple Away
Does that stop a fealty generation?
says actions.
Yeah, I think so.
And most of the things that make fealty are either the on-hit
Yeah,
Fang thing
on hit mark
or attack reactions.
yeah.
So maybe not.
So
if
no,
Ripple
Ripple
Away
Away
says
is not
card, then maybe.
because
but
Fang scares me.
it should.
It does.
should.
It does scare me.
Fang's a very strong deck. Obviously, another local and Cuppa Noah plays Fang to great effect. It's a deck with probably quite a brutal learning curve. I think a deck that really forces you to.
You don't
juggle
have long to learn it because you've got sort of the 2 phases of Fang, and that first phase is either short or you did it wrong.
True, yeah. Either you get online. Well, this is the thing. So obviously, going into the game, this was one of the ones where Fang didn't immediately get online.
Yeah.
He took a few turns to get online. Obviously, you are at the mercy of the hands you draw. He took a bit long to get online. Had to sometimes use.
Although that's what the fridge is for, because this is the other advantage to Warrior. You got the fridge.
Well, exactly, and dynamos. So
yeah.
it's not like a long game isn't necessarily beneficial to a dynamos deck.
Nope.
Like he got a lot of extra block value out of those boots, and obviously swinging 2 daggers is well within his abilities. Even having to pitch to swing with them, so resetting the -1 counter on that happened a fair bit. But yeah, he had to crack a few fealties to just present decent turns, to like make non-draconic attack reactions draconic, to make sure they smoothed out quite nicely. And so I think by the time he gets online, we're looking at about like 26 apiece. Around then, like 25-ish.
Okay, yeah.
I think we're pretty much on level.
Still in that, we've talked about this before, that level where you've got space to eat a turn almost and come back hard.
And fundamentally, obviously, with him taking so long to get online, I would have liked very much to have been further ahead online.
Yeah.
My deck's working essentially from the get-go, and his is working at half speed till then. And then he gets online, and there's no real way for me in Gravy to get him offline.
Yeah.
And I don't. And he's very online, and he starts pressuring me a lot. Quite early on, actually, he makes a decision which, rewatching it, the commentary found confusing, and I fundamentally thought was correct and was the game plan for the game, which was to ignore the allies and go for the face.
Fair.
Because there's only so... Like, if I draw the right allies, there's an argument to taking them out. Like, there's a point where like Sawbones is down, and I'm like, this might bait a bit of damage for him. But like fundamentally, Fang is capped to the damage his deck can do, and it can do a lot of damage.
And Gravy blocks badly.
And Gravy blocks
and
poorly.
Fang's fast. So
the idea is, I think once you're online, and even before you're getting online,
you should be
looking to go at phase.
Yep.
And if he had gone for the allies, I would have got that life leader that I wanted.
Yeah.
I would have felt a lot more comfortable in the end game. Because there were multiple turns, skipping ahead a bit when we get to the end game, where I'm at the mercy of his draws. If he draws the right set of attack reactions, there's not much I can do about it.
That's a Fang thing. I find it is a Fang thing where you've got to play around that one last really big attack reaction they've got in deck every hand, and you can't do it. You can't do it.
No, you can't. You get put in the blender a little bit. It's just like playing against Stormblade Dory back in the day, where like once you get to a certain life total, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. And once he gets online, we very rapidly approach that situation.
Yeah.
I end up making what one might call an unforced error, where I eat essentially a full turn's worth of damage to keep a 4-card grip, which honestly is also like 3 red, so there's not much I can do with it.
Yep.
If I give him the cards, I probably still take a fair bit of damage and don't do anything back, whereas if I keep the 4-card hands, I at least present some damage.
Yeah.
And start getting to that point where I'm pressuring the life total, pressuring the win instead. I end up activating Gravy to discard a Conqueror of the High Seas.
Right.
Because I need the blue that's on top of my deck.
Yep.
Then proceed to use the blue to play a Golden Temple, discard an ally, and then have to throw a Conqueror for 7 because I needed a second blue off the Golden Temple draw.
Okay.
And sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't.
Yep.
That time I didn't. So we end up throwing... again, a hand with a bit of damage, a bit of disruption, but again, like a 4-card 10 is not where we want to be at that point in the game. I end up having to, I think, pitch a red Swiftwater Sloop as well, which is, again, another card that I would have liked to have thrown for 6 to go again. But, so we end up losing a lot of tempo on that sort of turn, and then we get into the nitty-gritty of the end game, where I am at the mercy, like I said a minute ago, of those attack reacts turning up at the right time.
Yeah.
He could very much just throw the first dagger. I respect it to a degree with a 3-block, and he just pumps it all the way up to 11 and
Exactly.
I'm dead.
Yep.
I'm sitting on a Blood in the Water for a while to sort of mitigate that. I haven't seen any of them, so I know there's like 3 in there. So I'm like, I'll have one, and like, another one's going to turn up soon. So I'm hoping to play around those to a degree. And my board state is Chum, Sawbones for the vast majority of this. I do end up then finding a second Chum and resolving a second Sawbones before the game's end.
Right.
So I start feeling very comfortable on the board, and obviously he's dedicated himself to throwing at face.
Face, yep.
So I get to keep those. Those are my boys. And I think it's the second Sawbones that starts the actual, like...
Is it the -1 off the Sawbones then that
Sawbones
starts?
is to prevent 1.
Yeah, so 2 Sawbones down starts to feel really painful.
Obviously, the more turns they stick around, the more...
Especially with attack reaction type decks.
Exactly, the more they're just preventing damage.
Yeah, like Dynamos, but now you've got 2 of them.
Exactly, I've got 2 of them. And obviously, even when I don't use one, I get to swing the other one for 6, which is pretty handy. I think there was only really 1 turn where I didn't actually use the Sawbones to prevent damage, and that was because ideally I would have drawn that blue, like I said, and then done the Conqueror into the Sawbones. But no, we get to the real nitty gritty. It's getting very, very close. I know he's still got 2 Hunt's Ends in the deck. And then there is a turn on camera, which the casters, I think, enjoyed to a degree. I check my compass. I see what's on top of my deck. There's an attack coming in for 1. I give it a cursory 3-block. He pumps it. He pumps it again. It's pretty high. And I block with a Blood in the Water, discarding the top card, and it's my 1 of Red Fiddler's Green. The value. The huge value.
Huge value off that.
I get to immediately gain 3 life off of putting the Fiddler's Green into the bin. I get to block efficiently with the D-React instead of like losing block value on a lower thing. So I end up starting the turn, I think, on 5 and finishing it on 6.
Yeah.
And still presenting some attacks with allies. And then from there, it's like he can't get rid of the allies. He can't keep enough cards to present face.
The problem with that game plan of going for face is in the end game, you've still got to be at full tempo going fast.
Well, yeah, if you don't manage to seal the deal, you burn a lot of resources getting there, right?
Yeah.
And also you let me, essentially, like we said earlier with the Sawbones, prevent a lot of incremental damage that otherwise would have been at my face on subsequent turns. There was another interaction as well where I got to block the first dagger relatively well, activate Chum, force the next attack to come in, and then essentially force the attack after that to come into Chum as well to finish him off, and then even then get to use the Sawbones to prevent that damage, so Chum stayed around.
Yep.
So I got to essentially eat a full turn's worth of tempo by doing something like that, which is pretty handy. But again, there's all kinds of clever tricks you can do with Gravy, which is why we were saying earlier the skill ceiling is so high. It's because there's plenty of things I definitely did wrong in that game, and I kind of got bailed out by just the raw power of the deck. But then that's the kind of deck you want to play if you want to play at a high level.
Yeah.
Better lucky than good, John.
Always. That's why I just play red cards.
Well, yeah. But no, I had a very good weekend. Very enjoyable weekend. I did.
Congratulations.
Just spoil it for you, John. I did win that game.
Winning a Super Armoury.
Winning a Super Armoury. And genuinely, more importantly, winning the Flic Flac playmat. Exactly. That was my exact response. Flic Flac, as some might know, one of my, if not one of my favourite cards, my favourite card.
Possibly your favourite non-brew card.
Yeah.
Possibly your favourite non-brew card.
Yeah, I think so.
Certainly one that I've heard you talk about a lot.
I still love playing defensive Katsu, Turtle Katsu. I would play him again, although I think perhaps Ira is a better call.
Fi.
Distinct lack of combo cards in Fi. But Flic Flac, gorgeous art, gorgeous card, fantastic utility, and a playmat that has only very recently, I've been told, been a playmat, despite existing things. Welcome to Wraith apparently is now a convention special. We got 2 of them to give out of these Super Armouries.
Wow. I
was probably going to attempt to pick up the Flic Flac mat from whoever won it anyway. Yep. So very glad that I don't have to pay the excess to pick it up.
Yep.
And obviously I now have a fantastic playmat for Katsu.
Yeah.
Again, one of my favourite heroes. A hero that I wish was half as good and forgiving as Gravy is. A deck I have been working on in the background, though, John. I did subsequently, the next day, also get a chance to play on the other Super Armoury that I was supposed to be judging, and it was a lot quieter, so I was like, I'll play anyway. And I did play Katsu on my new Flic Flac playmat, and I went 3-1 with my only loss being to Ryan on Victor, which is fair enough.
Which is fair enough, right? If you're gonna lose to one of the best players locally,
might as well be on the deck that is custom built to beat Ninja.
Yeah.
So I'm already getting use out of that mat, and I will be getting subsequent further use out of it too. I imagine, maybe even tonight.
Maybe even tonight at Mug and Meeple.
Maybe.
But okay, we go all sorts of places from here. But so we had 2 Super Armouries.
We did.
We also had the Cracked Bauble Appreciation Society Project Blue.
Invitational. We did. The CBAS PBI.
Yep.
For short.
Was that fun?
It was incredibly fun.
Yeah.
I did also get to squeak on camera for that one too, playing one of my favourite decks of all time in Ravenous Meat Axe Reiner.
Cool.
A deck that, again, I would very happily play in CC, and I have recently been working on again in the background as a result of PB. But a deck that is exactly how I like to play the game. Blocking well, playing good numbers, swinging Meat Axe for 5 or 6.
Good fun value fab, which is something that we've lost in the last year or two.
Fab. I mean, to a degree, like Heavy Hitters was the metagame of numbers.
Yep.
MST has flipped that on its head, and then since MST, we've kind of had a more of a mishmash myriad of strategies.
So we're hoping for Silver Age to be that other format that we can play at things.
Well, I am.
Yeah.
I am very much. I do think that PB is very much
that chance to either find a different side to your hero or play another hero without having to invest in the expensive cardboard.
That's what we were saying the other week, wasn't it, John? Is that it's a format for everyone, really, for established players who want to maybe relight the old flame with some of their LL'd CC heroes, or perfect format for newer players who want to get into the game on a budget.
Yep.
I do think competitively it has the depth.
And if it becomes a competitive format, competitive local crowd, we will probably end up playing it competitively. If it becomes a format that is at these big events, that is a skirmish format, possibly even...
I'd say calling. I'd say battle hunt.
A calling battle hunt, really?
Yeah. If it ends up being a format that is legal for skirmish, it would be silly to not have it as a battle hardened.
Fair enough.
I mean, you've got LL battle hardens. You had Blitz battle hardens back in the day.
Okay.
I think there was a common battle hardened like once. So, but again, that's what I hope, is that PB or Silver Age becomes the new entry level format, kind of to replace Blitz to a degree, and then they can take Blitz off the rotation for a little bit, work on it a bit in the background, make some big sweeping changes to it, and represent it.
If Blitz, Blitz has had so many problems.
Yeah, and that's what I'm not saying like
that Silver Age or Project Blue at least seems to fix. We don't know anything about Silver Age, but if it's based on Project Blue fixes a lot of those issues.
I'm not saying like take Blitz out back behind the sheds, and do away with it, but I do think it needs to be taken out of the limelight a little bit and worked on.
If we've got Project Blue, then we can call Blitz Old Yeller, and I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sending him to the farm maybe, but again, we don't know until we know more about Silver Age. It's all speculation. I can only hope that they see the good response that PB's gotten and respond to it in turn.
Good.
Obviously, we got big numbers. We did have a representative of LSS there at the booth,
and I heard that they were entertained.
They had a great time. I hope they had a great time. I hope Alex had a really nice time, and I think he was impressed with the turnout for PB and subsequent armories as well.
Yep.
Especially considering it was a board gaming convention for the most part.
Yeah.
Having a card game do well is good despite those conditions.
And I've heard stories of support from the local players for various photo ops and other little things where it's made it clear that Flesh and Blood is a popular game locally.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for a long time. I think our community is one of the strongest. I think we do a lot of stuff to maintain that strength and do well with it. I mean, not just me personally, but obviously other members too, like Mod and the Cuppers as well.
Mod, the Cuppers, the archives,
the
chat,
hard.
the very active chat. All add to it. The fact that you can play twice a week locally, all adds to it.
Obviously, that's again we have to thank Dice, Dice and Destiny, as our local game store, for supporting us, like for giving us those nights. Obviously, sometimes we butt heads, but you know, it's all from a place of love.
Yep.
And so yeah, like Fab's in a good spot locally for us. I think Fab's looking to be in a good spot everywhere else as well. The hope is that it goes from strength to strength. Keep on rolling.
Well, I mean, look, we've had a number of new players this year. Certainly, locally, new players beats attrition. And attrition's a weird one because I've only seen a handful of people completely step away.
People, they tend to come back.
They tend to downsize if they're leaving to a point where they can play occasionally, and then they still play occasionally. And obviously, you know, we mentioned Mug and Meeple. They've got their armory now. They're not too far from us. We're going to check them out.
Yep. Again, it's not just here in Canterbury that we play Fab. Like other places have tried it, and not all of them have like settled. Like sometimes they pop up a little bit and come back, and sometimes they pop up again in the same place. Like I know Board at Home was trying to boot theirs back up again recently, and sometimes you just don't have the local players. No. Like it happens. It's not the end of the world.
Well, their core local crowd moved to Canterbury,
which doesn't help because we did essentially snipe them, and poach them.
And Chaos Cards. I was talking to Chaos Cards last week.
Yep.
They actually still have Flesh and Blood on their schedule. They just don't have any players for it, so they would still happily host a Wednesday game if people showed up.
But again, the key difference is that unless someone at the store is a member, is a player, it's very hard to get a community stand going because no one's pushing it, right?
No one's pushing it. And I think they do have a store member who plays, but it's like a second or third even card game for them.
Yeah.
Although they do have, if you ask nicely, some Dynasty out back that they are selling at a slight discount. It's not on display. Shh.
We won't be there for much longer. I'll tell you that for free. Tell you what, we're going to turn these mics off and we are going to Chaos Cards, and I'm going to buy all of it.
As I've demonstrated recently, just buy packs, kids. Singles are overpriced.
Yeah, singles are overpriced when you could just. What was your most recent haul, John?
So I went into Dice, had a nice chat with Mod, and then someone else came up, a regular. Of other card games, asking about what's Mod hoping to pull from this set. And Mod may have mentioned, Base the Mountain, which is the Chase generic equipment piece, and Mod's then. So what does Base the Mountain do? Base the Mountain's got quite a bit of text on it, so
a lot of text for a card game player who can't read.
Well, even for the ones who can read, it's a lot to remember when you have the card handy. So Mod was halfway through trying to remember when very helpfully. I opened a pack of Guardian Mastery, and a cold foil one fell out the back.
There you go.
So they could just read it
there and
then.
Go.
They could just read it there and then.
There you go. I found this for you.
Yeah, I found it's this one. It's this one.
Go.
Yeah, here, read this one. No, don't worry about sleeving. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll just put it in my pocket.
Yeah. No. So yeah, that was.
It's not a bad one.
That was one of the ones I wanted for Guardian Fi.
Yes. Quite.
Toby just rolled his eyes in a really big.
They probably
really
heard on
way.
the mic, actually.
Yeah, actually, I'm surprised we didn't hear the sockets going.
Yeah.
Who is one Arcanite Skullcap away from testing?
I mean, I have one, but I don't know if I have the strength
to
do it.
It's on the way.
Okay,
it's on the way.
Good.
It's on the way. Bought that alongside the amulet.
What's he playing?
They're quite cheap at the moment. They're quite cheap at the moment. It was like £20 including postage.
Skullcap's kind of pointless now, isn't it?
So not in Guardian Fi.
Well,
who has very limited access to AB, it turns out.
Well, yeah, you don't want to give up 3 equipment slots when you could.
And then, the other thing is PQ season, but I think we might save that for next week now.
I mean, we can mention it.
Well, it's coming up.
It's in 2 months.
It is?
It's in 2 months. I was listening to the Arsenal Pass podcast on Friday, hosted by calling Auckland top 8 player Hayden Dale.
Yep.
And renowned assassin enthusiast Pankaj Bajwani. Maybe my favourite podcast. bar this one.
Yep, of course.
To listen to. Probably one of the highlights of my Friday. It has been for a very long time. And they were discussing in this particular episode how to get to the Pro Tour. Maybe your first Pro Tour.
Ooh.
And obviously, as players who you know, are trying to take things a bit more competitively seriously,
I'll need to listen to that.
we'll probably stop playing Rhino a bit more and maybe start playing good decks a bit more, in my own personal case, for example.
Yep.
One of the key tenets was Hayden pushing this idea that you should, and this is crazy to me, pick a deck and stick with it.
Well, this is what I wanted to talk about next week, but seeing as we're here, I disagree.
Well, I think there are.
I'm close to that, but I disagree.
There are benefits to both sides, and obviously.
Well, no, there's a third side. I've got a third side. I've got a third option for you, which actually I think we're hitting upon.
Okay.
And so we've discussed before, play a deck and stick with it, or just attack the meta and trust your game skill on some random 80 you've thrown together that attacks the meta.
Yes.
I've got a third option that I am going to be experimenting with.
Okay. Is it Guardian 5?
That's option 4.
3.5.
Option 3.5 is Guardian
option
5.
0.
But there's a deck list and there's cards. So Guardian 5 might be coming to a game store near you soon. But no, the third option, I feel, is pick 2 decks. Pick what you hope will be a fairly strong meta deck, and pick something that attacks the meta, and maybe plans for a particular event as well.
Yep.
So go look, if I can spike the first event of the meta on Kano, that's
you
a good
don't
time.
have to play any more Proquest.
That's a good time to do it. You have to play more Proquest,
well, you
right?
can't.
So I think I'm going to look at that going forwards. I'm going to pick 2 decks. I'm going to pick my I Know You're Strong in the meta deck that from weeks. Well, okay, I'm probably only going to play 2 Proquests. I'm probably going to play Spellbound and Dice. To be honest, at this point, although I haven't seen the full list, we need a full list.
There's a gamut of we can do 4 back to back.
Oh, I know we can do. What, in the same weekend? No, 2 weekends.
It's the same weekend? No, in 4 weekends.
I know in 4 weekends you can do 4 back to back. I don't think I can do that, but I want to see.
I'm afraid you might have to, John.
I want to see the list. I want to see the list. And plan around. I think Spellbound and Dice.
Yep.
Pretty certain on. And Spellbound's fairly early.
Yep.
So maybe Kano.
Maybe Kano.
I'm fairly confident at this point that not enough people at Spellbound.
Kano did get its own special mention as pick a deck. Like the argument was, pick a deck that's good.
Yep.
Play it. Start playing it now.
Yep.
You have 8 weeks.
Yep.
To play that deck religiously, get all the practice you can with that deck, learn all the matchups with that deck, and be 100% sure with your 80 or like your 90 with your 10 flex slots that rotate in. That kind of thing.
Yep.
And the counter argument to the 2 deck thing was, well, if you spend 50% on both of them, you could have spent 100% on one.
That's true.
That
That's
kind
true.
Of thing. And then it was, if you play Kano, it could just be the correct thing to play Kano.
Yeah.
Because all Kano players, again, the argument, I think it was from Punkage, was you should always sort of have your reps for Kano and be ready for that first week of it could be the Kano time, and then everyone brings their arcane appliances and the things and then null room back in. So potentially. Now the question for me is obviously, what do I lock? Because there is a correct choice. There is a best deck in the format.
There is a correct choice.
I have experience playing it, and I have experience
choice.
winning with it. And I did last night pull 2 Fearless Confrontations. Which is the new Chase. Chase M. So I'm already 2 parts of the way there to having the new blue for Gravy, which is the answer for Gravy, right? However, there is a set release. Before ProQuest, and I, as some of our listeners may already know, despite being an avid Flic Flac fan, actually started the game playing 2 different classes. Those being Guardian and Brute.
Yep.
And so if ever there was a set that was a love letter to me, it is Super Slam. And if ever there was a set that might put those archetypes, those decks back on the map, I'm not necessarily talking about Rhino, although new blue 6, by the way, it might be that set. And it's why last night I played KO, and I had a good time playing KO, because I do feel that we might see enough support for KO to put him back on top of an otherwise relatively attackable metagame.
I actually think you make a really good argument, especially
I
in
have
that
to, John.
first week. In that first, if it's in... Now, I don't know, and this is the problem, I don't know if Spellbound is week 1. Because if Spellbound isn't week 1, even though it's the first event I'll attend, that changes things.
Yeah.
But if Spellbound is week 1, I need to check that, then I could very well see the correct answer being your preferred brute out of Super Slam, because people won't know what they're doing with the new stuff. You will get all those advantages of people aren't sure, people don't know. So, I mean, there's even an argument for Rhinar, because people just don't have enough
see what we
reps
get.
into Rhinar. I think it's a see what you get piece. I think there's
yeah.
a strong argument for, kick off with, get the reps on Gravy now, because we don't know what's in Super Slam yet. Get the reps on Gravy now. You've got reps on Brute.
1 or 2.
So, for this PQ season, if Spellbound is the first, and if it isn't the first week, we need to find out what is the first week in the UK.
There might be Darksphere.
No, Darksphere's after Spellbound.
Right.
So
Might be Dice Saloon. I don't know.
Dice Saloon is after Dice, I think, and
I
Destiny.
thought we were the last week again.
No, I think with week 3.
Nope.
I
We're
need to
week
check-
5.
I need to check my calendar.
The last week. Because we changed it so Carl could play.
Oh, has it moved?
Yeah.
In that case, Spellbound is first.
There you go.
So Spellbound is first. In that case, we need to find out what's week 3.
We need to put down a plan. We need
I
to
can
make a
probably
plan.
do 1, 3, and 5.
To be fair, we need to do a full CBAS level plan. We need to
But
get as many people playing in these events
but
as possible.
Spellbound then is a good place to play that brute that comes out of Super Slam that people don't fully understand, people don't know how to play into, people are scared of,
People won't have
unsure
sideboard
of,
plans.
people
Won't
won't
have like
they-
too many paper reps in.
No, exactly. And actually, there just won't be a solved deck yet. But
Yeah.
you've got reps and brute.
Well, this is all under the implication that there's going to be something released in Super Slam that does give those extra points to Brute.
Well,
Because right now, Brute isn't in.
There's a new Rhino spec coming. Didn't that
that's
get revealed?
That's in the thingy deck.
Oh, is that
that's
in-
not till October
Okay.
or November. Oh, November, yeah, because
November,
October's the progress.
Okay,
thing.
fine.
My theory, my understanding is that it's going to be very hard to print anything at the M slot in generic Brute without it being very good in KO.
Yeah.
Unless it very specifically interacts with Intimidate. And then I don't mind because I get to play in Rhino.
Yeah.
Obviously, I feel a lot more comfortable playing like KO at a high level event than Rhino, which I know is surprising to those at home, having seen me
It won't
register
stop you.
Rhino many times.
It won't stop you. You're happy to be uncomfortable on Rhino. We've seen it.
It's kind of like it's like a hug in a way, you know. It's
But if ever there was an event, Toby, to do it,
it would be that one.
It's
It would be
that.
that one.
And then you've got Gravy in the back pocket for 2 or 3 more events that season.
Well, this is the thing, right? Is that I could just lock into KO now and essentially bet my marbles on there being enough support in Super Slam.
But that I
to
think
make
is a
KO
mistake.
worth it.
I think that is a mistake because we haven't seen the cards yet.
Well, because even KO as he stands right now, and this might sound quite forward, John, I think I could win a progress with KO.
Oh, don't do this, Toby.
Because UK Nats, we're going back a little bit now, 2 KOs made top 8. 2 KOs were very well positioned. Some of the English players picked up this really interesting version of KO that was essentially playing 10 equipment pieces, was playing stuff like Balance of Justice, Blanche, and was essentially poised to attack Syndra and Gravy, and did so very well. Struggled into Verdance, but otherwise did all right. Now, Verdance did win a Battle Hardened this weekend, so she's not as dead as people are saying, but there's an argument that maybe if Super Slam just gives him something to push over Verdance or something to shore up some of those other matchups, maybe he's in a good spot. There's also obviously the argument that there's 2 new brutes coming out, and maybe Tough Nut or RKO are really good too. But we're not gonna do that yet, because that would be the real one. No one's going to have a sideboard plan for Rhino or KO.
No.
Absolutely no one's going to have a sideboard plan for Tough Nut.
No. No. Well, I do, but that's me.
Well, currently Tough Nut is 60 blues, and I don't think that'll be his final list.
No.
60 blues and rock.
But, okay, so tune in next week, dear listeners, as I try and convince Toby to do the smart thing one more time.
Play Rhino at Proquest.
And not lock into a brute for the whole Proquest.
Well, and this is the thing. I want to lock in. I probably want to just play Gravy from now. Really.
Yes.
That's the correct
That's the correct answer. That is yes.
That's the correct
yes.
answer.
Yes, Toby.
The counter argument to that
There isn't one.
is that the very best players are playing Gravy. And I don't personally think I'm one of the very best players.
Not yet, but with some reps maybe.
With some reps, maybe. The other issue I have is that the first sideboard plan that anyone makes for a deck they are building this season and for future subsequent seasons probably is going to be Gravy Bones. Everyone's going to have an exact, minute.
No. You always do
plan.
this. You always do this. But it's still the best deck in format for a reason. And
Yes.
as the 15-year-old we know who is currently on their way to Worlds for another card game says, just play the best deck in format because that's the one other people are trying to beat.
I'm going to lead on from what I'm saying, John. Tying it into other games that I've played. VGC is a good example. There's very recently a video that went up from Wolfie Glick, a renowned, very good VGC player, won Worlds in 2016, in case you didn't know, talking about the prevalence of a Pokemon called Xerneas, the box legendary for Pokemon X, who, during its very limited time in the spotlight, was unequivocally the strongest Pokemon available to play in VGC. And all teams and the entire metagame was entirely warped around it to that point.
But we're not in that place. We're not in that place.
For the 2 seasons it was legal.
Yep.
It didn't make it to the finals of either Worlds.
But we're not in that place. This is where Fab meta at the moment, and still, as far as I see it, after Mastery Pack Guardian, after Super Slam, I don't see Super Slam changing yet. We are not in that place that I've seen before, where there is one utterly dominant force. Like Gravy is good. People will have a sideboard plan for Gravy.
People do have a sideboard plan for
People
Gravy.
cannot afford to just target Gravy at the cost of their meta spread.
Well, I'm going to tie in from what I was just saying into the top 8 at Calling Auckland to show you that whilst Gravy is strong, and Gravy was the most represented deck there,
Yep.
one in the top 8 shows us that the targeting is working.
Not necessarily.
Well, it does. Because 1, he didn't win. 2, he didn't even make it he didn't make it out of the top 8.
And this is the Kano thing of so that means it's now a great time to play Kano. If no Kanos make its top 8, next week is the time to play Kano.
And here's the other thing: those Gravy players are obviously better Gravy players than me. Is the other thing as well. Like I have a lot of reps playing Brute. I can probably figure out on the fly what I'm supposed to be doing a lot more with Brute. I can probably get there with Gravy, and he's very enjoyable. But when was the last time we had a set release and one of the heroes wasn't immediately a dominant force?
This is true.
Rosetta.
But you can't plan for RKO yet. And they became dominant forces the meta after from Rosetta. RKO is probably the one you'd play out of Super Slam.
I think it's going to be Pleiades or Lyeth, but
exactly. That's why I think planning for playing Super Slam, we haven't got the time and support to come out the gates like that. Like you see some of the people who do this professionally, Toby, can come out the gates with a new set, with a new deck. The way we saw, Yuki's Syndra, which I'm still on because it's that good, and just the depth is incredible. Really is. Okay, I've changed a few cards here and there, but it's still basically the same plan. And that's why they're the best players. They're doing this professionally. We're not doing this professionally.
No, I do unfortunately have to pay rent.
And so the correct answer remains get the reps in on Gravy and then play a Brute week 1.
Play Gravy for 8 weeks.
Play Gravy for 8 weeks because you'll then play Gravy for weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Well, so I think what we'll fundamentally sit on is that I'm going to play a lot of Gravy going forward.
Yep.
I'm going to play a little bit of KO here or there. And then when we get the full spoiler set for Super Slam, I'm going to go into the tank with Callum and Aidan, my fellow brutes.
Yep.
And we're going to cook up a KO list that we think is probably the strongest KO list we could build. It could be we end up looking at seeing the spoilers and going, wow, Tough Nut is just insane. Let's just all build Tough Nut, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
assuming that regular armed and dangerous KO is
the
probably the one who
one.
benefits
Yep.
most from a brute set. Maybe Reiner, but let's be honest. We're going to cook that list, and then we're going to hit it hard, and we're going to get as many reps in as we can,
I think the 2-deck plan's the
and
plan.
have those two lined up.
I think the 2-deck plan's the plan.
And then week 1 at Spellbound, I will play my red line Katsu list.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Energy Potion, a Flesh and Blood podcast. If you liked it, please like and consider subscribing for more. If you disagree with any of these opinions, please let us know in the comments, and we will either defend them robustly or completely cave and agree with you. We can't wait to bring you more of this. Thanks again. This podcast was made possible with help from the team at Le Bon Tutu Productions and a special donation from the Cracked Bauble Appreciation Society and their sponsors.